This episode of Cross Politic is brought to you by... This episode is... Gabe, I don't think we have anybody for this episode. You know, if you listen to Cross Politic and you want to advertise on our show, you should get this spot. You can get it at crosspolitic.com. What, Gabe? Email us? Where? What email address? You didn't write it on the paper. I don't know if it's not on the paper, just like the person whose spot is supposed to be. I don't know who I'm...
Contact at crosspolitic.com.
Oh, now you want to pick up the mic. What is it again?
Contact at crosspolitic.com.
Yeah, what he said.
Contact at crosspolitic.com.
Oh, now you're going to gang up on me. What you want to say, Pastor?
Cross Politic begins in 3.
Cross Politic begins in 3, 2, 1.
Have a heart that breaks for a dying city.
Stop cursing your future.
Is not true.
For all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
No government, no political system has ultimate supremacy. Jesus is King of Kings, and it's about time our nation return in humble submission to his lordship.
You are not protecting women. You are authorizing the destruction of 500,000 little women every year.
I didn't start it. But sir, with all due respect, that's the argument of a 5-year-old. I didn't start it.
Right, when the Spirit comes upon people, they go to war. They go to battle, and the enemies of God are driven back, and they're slaughtered.
You are listening to Cross Politic with Gabe Wrench, the Water Boy, Pastor Toby Sumter, and the Chocolate Knox.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic. Thank you for joining us.
Look at him. He's looking all like...
He is.
He's looking all like official. He's like...
Well, we have a printer here. Thanks to our Cross Politic Club members.
We actually have a printer
here.
Hey, fix your mic real quick.
What'd I do?
Don't go on looking like that.
Yep, that was...
He's like, just like, would you see him? Yep. He's just like sitting there, like taking, you know.
You talking about somebody looking official? Look who's in a tie.
Yeah, wore a tie.
Yeah.
Hi, babe. I love you. I love you, babe.
I knew
you know our wives don't watch the show.
That's for you.
Our wives don't watch the show.
You know, my poor wife, she has to watch this show
I love you,
so
Jenny.
much.
3 times.
Oh, my goodness. Poor Sharon. Pray for my wife.
Yeah. Pray for all our wives.
Yeah. Got to dress us, watch the shows, correct us when we're wrong.
Oh, man.
Well, hey, man, it's good to be here with you, Knox and Pastor Toby. And we got a guest.
Dan.
We got a guest.
Good
Dan
afternoon.
Foreman. So, Senator Dan Foreman, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We've had Dan Foreman on the show before, and we're really grateful specifically for his work on abortion in Idaho, seeking to pass legislation that would abolish
abortion. Actually, just
abortion.
recognize the Idaho Constitution.
Yeah, well, just recognize that
pretty simple.
It's a crime. It's murder. But so great to have you on the show again, Dan.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for coming back.
And we need to thank all our Cross Politic Club listeners for you guys supporting us, signing up for the club membership.
More people keep signing up.
Please, yes, and please, more people. We need probably a couple thousand to hit where we really want to be.
We have plans.
Yes,
we have dreams. We have goals.
Yes.
I have a dream.
The Lord has placed a vision in our heart.
I heard that gospel voice in Toby's heart. I have a dream.
But seriously.
That's not how you say it, though.
I know.
I have a dream that one day.
That's good, Toby. That's good.
But the thing is that, I mean, God's been blessing this show, and more people are telling us that it's a blessing.
Yeah.
That we're an encouragement, that we're helping equip you in your families, in your day-to-day life, in your churches, and in your communities. And we're really grateful for that. And so we want to see God bless this and grow it more.
Yeah.
And one of the ways if you can get behind this is by joining Cross Politic. Become a Cross Politic member. Go to crosspolitic.com. Click join.
You can tell them to do that on our podcast.
Yeah, right.
Not on the NRB show.
Go there.
Go
there. Go there.
It's the best. It's the best.
But we just we're in the when you become a member, you get first access first of all to our Worldview Shotgun series.
Yep.
The first 3 episodes just got shared with our club members this week.
This past week, yes. I think I emailed it out on Tuesday, I think.
Yeah. So our club members have early access to that. We're working on other perks.
We're working on giving them discounts to merch. That's
like
coming,
like fancy cups.
Yes,
like this, and coffee maybe. I don't know.
And then eventually, possibly some sort of other products that we put out. And there's one of
like beard oil. Some beard balm.
Yeah.
So ladies,
I don't know.
Join Cross Politic.
It'll be whiskey flavor.
Yeah.
I don't think your wife's gonna like that.
Whiskey and tobacco.
Yeah,
that's
right.
how we do it.
Amen.
So thank you for all of you who have already joined and supporting us. You made this studio possible.
Be sure to like and share the show right now.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Don't forget
that
to share
button. Hit that like button.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we just kicked around after the Tabidi Anabuile.
That's not how you say it.
That was good.
Anabuile.
Yep. See, I got it.
On the third try.
I said it right the first time.
Anya.
We would love to do some follow-up stuff with Tabidi. And maybe even make our way out to D.C.
And he said he would do follow-up stuff with us.
Yeah.
He done messed up.
Yep. So I bring that up.
He said he wasn't afraid.
He said
I bring that up
because
if we got a supporter that wants to fly us out to D.C. and visit with Tabidi and do a live show out there.
Yeah.
We probably need to ask Tabidi first, but I mean, at least
we're just gonna show up.
At least let's say,
we're just gonna knock.
Hey man, we here, bro. Hey, we brought some coffee though. You want some?
Yeah, you want some?
Coffee?
It's black.
Yeah.
I wonder if he.
Am I the only one laughing at that?
Yeah.
I wonder if he. I wonder if he have any. Wonder if he'd have any. Maybe some. Bourbon or.
He's Baptist.
Yeah.
Some
he probably does. He probably does in his closet, in his room.
Who is this guy?
So Tabidi Anabuile, he's a he's a pastor out of Washington D.C. And there's been kind of this big church flap around church and race recently. It all kind of came to a head.
It was related to the MLK 50th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of his assassination, and
so there's been a lot of kind of confusion. People are saying some things. He said some things on his blog that brought confusion, at least to us.
Who us?
Us. Including David.
Yeah.
Okay. And that, so we had him on. It's a big issue, and we had him on to do some clarifications and to have a good discussion. But one of the problems in all this is both sides aren't really discussing.
We need to talk to each other.
Yeah, we got to talk, and no one wants to talk. So, with that said, let's get into some cross-politic news. Particularly, so one of the reasons, so we got Dan Foreman coming on the show.
We got a real professional.
We got a real professional.
He came.
He came. He saw. And we want to do this because we want to give you guys a good example of how to maybe work with politics in your state.
Or maybe how not to.
Yeah, it might be wrong.
As the case may be. But we're trying. So we're trying.
We recognize that there's 57 states out there. And that was a quote from Obama. We recognize that every
Why you
state.
looking at the black dude when he say it, dude? Your president said.
Yo, boy. No.
Don't forget who's in office.
Do you
right
remember
now.
Obama?
Yeah, Captain Orange in office right now, so don't forget.
Yeah, Captain Orange.
Yeah.
So
and so we know each state's different and everything.
I'm not covenantally connected to Captain Orange. Am I?
I'm just gonna sip this right here from my cross.
All right,
you're complicit.
I'm
Orange.
complicit.
And so we want to be able to kind of give you guys examples, give you guys resources, and help you guys and encourage you guys to sit down with your politicians, sit down with your state, get involved in your state as
get
Christians.
To know them.
Just get to know them, and get involved as Christians should be. Whatever. I like Tabidi's analogy that he gave us on the show last week, and kind of apply that to politics. You're driving down this freeway. In some areas, you can exit. You can get off that off ramp, and you should, and that's your job. And some ramps you aren't going to get off of. You don't have a stake in that game. You don't have an opportunity to influence in that game. Keep going down the highway.
You just need to know about it.
Yeah, you just need to know about it. So that's our attempt to do this.
Okay.
So in cross-politic news, before we get into some details here, Miami Herald reported on this, and a group of researchers looked at the correlation between government and religion.
Oh.
Yeah. Not a bad study, not a bad idea.
They came to Romans 13.
And that's where they started their study, was in the research.
Did they find a correlation?
Research. And they found, so their correlation, what they found they found that there's an inverse relationship between the size of government, and how do I do this on a, how do I diagram this on, never mind.
Just keep waving your hands.
Yeah. And they found an inverse relationship between the size of government and religion. So the bigger the government is, the less religion.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I know. Surprise. Woohoo. But one of the researchers, one of their conclusions in all this was that government services were better with a bigger government.
Okay.
Meaning that their services were there's more services in a bigger government, and they're coming in.
There's a false assumption in this study, though, which is that government isn't religious.
Right.
So what we're talking about actually is not
which God?
Yeah,
not what God.
Not
God.
whether there's a God, it's which God.
Which God, yeah.
And so it's not surprising that the larger government is, the less other religions are influential and significant, because government, when it is that large, is inherently religious.
Yeah.
It just is the religion of secularism. It's the religion of those who think that the state is savior.
And so as we've seen,
so you need a bigger state.
You need a bigger state, and that government starts creating its own system of morality.
Mm-hmm.
And like what we just saw in California,
that's right.
I think it's AB 2943, legislation passed that strengthens existing protections on conversion therapy.
It was already there.
It was already there, but they strengthened it on conversion therapy, and basically they concluded that the legislation basically was going to oh man, where did it go? I just had it right here. I had it right here. It tells churches and others with traditional beliefs about gender and sexual orientation that advocating for their views could get them sued.
Yeah.
So a pastor counseling in his office saying,
exercising church discipline.
You need to repent of your homosexuality.
This is
right.
That pastor gets sued.
Right. You excommunicate him for failure to repent of that sin.
Right.
That's conversion therapy
to
them.
You get sued.
Yeah.
Or you you're telling
So
them
if you're a Christian in California, you need to either move or get ready to go to jail.
Get sued. Well, and if pastors should get up after this passes the next Sunday in the pulpit, they should get up,
preach a sermon.
Come and get me.
But that's just come on. That's just not.
Come and get me.
It's not going to happen.
No.
But that's
and I'll include the Catholic priest in that too.
Yeah, for Dan.
For Dan.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're doing here is you mentioned they're creating their own sense of morality.
Yeah. It's their own religion.
Yeah, I would go a step further and say there's truth to that, but they're creating their own immorality and trying to call it morality.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And it's all based on one concept. The whole foundation's based on one thing: separation of church and state, which we all know never existed.
Yeah.
And they're trying to convince everyone. They've done a pretty good job of convincing young people in particular that, it's in the Constitution. The founding fathers didn't want religion to have any role in government.
Right.
The exact opposite, of course, is the truth. But that's what you're seeing here, this phony separation between church and state, which opens the door for them to create their own morality, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And the fact is that there's no place where you are actually neutral. So just even the idea that you could separate those two things, that there could be a place where what you're doing is non-moral, is just insane. It's a philosophical, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. We are moral beings, and no matter what you're doing, you banish. You can say the church can't come in here, but you're still acting in a moral or immoral way. There's no place, you can't do something and say, no, here in this section of my life, in my house, in my family, in my business, it might, here there's no moral bearing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they're doing, though. They're taking morality and putting it in a bottle and cramming a cork into the bottle.
Yeah.
They come to me all the time in the State House and say, Senator, what business do you have using your moral judgment when you write law or make decisions on the floor of the Senate?
And that's when you just punch them in the face.
Well,
and they're like, hey, why'd you punch me in the face? And they're like, well, I'm not acting on my morals. You told me not to.
Yeah. These people are illusionists.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, the problem is that they're not. I mean, it's completely muddled thinking, because on any other issue they would suddenly have all kinds of moral concerns.
Yeah.
Talk about what about the poor? What about orphans?
Yeah.
What about
well, even their own
LGBT
greedy businessmen.
It's in the comment itself. What standard are you using?
Right.
What standard of morality are you using to tell me I shouldn't use my morality?
Well, there's the key word: standards.
That's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because my response to these people is, if you're suggesting we don't use the standards in this book, then all right, tell me what standards I should use.
Amen.
And I get the deer in the headlights look, because there is no substitute, and they know it.
You need to read some Van Til. I think you would like them.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't read Van. Okay, we won't do that.
Presuppositional apologetics. It make you Protestant real quick.
We're working on you, brother.
Keep talking like this, and
So the last thing I want to cover is actually particular to Idaho. Idaho, Dan, you might be able to fill us in a little more on this, but Idaho's now allowing gender changes on the birth certificate. So here's, our big government coming into play and now telling us that, hey, you can redefine even your gender on your birth certificate.
And then, now for Christians, we just got them coming from a talk that guys, trust, we're going to download it. We're going to bring this to you. But
ADF.
One of the things that we were hearing in this conversation was that Christians are not alarmed about the homosexual transgendered movement. We're very alarmed about the life movement and abortion and right now even racism and all that stuff. But right now it's kind of like, well, we'll just let them kind of have that over there.
What does gay marriage have to do with me?
Exactly. But so when you talk about being able to redefine, this is just a little thing. Redefine who you are inside of your birth certificate. Everybody's like, oh, that's just messed up, but it doesn't call for any action. So why is it that issue is such a problem, and why should we care?
Why Christians need to see this as a direct attack
against
on them.
Yeah,
this is not something that's happening over on the periphery, and you say, well, okay, I guess if somebody wants to do that, fine. Here's the deal. When this goes through, when this becomes norm, and it's becoming norm,
they're making it. Yes, right.
The problem with it, and the reason why Christians need to care, is because what they're saying is that biology doesn't matter.
That's right.
Legally speaking, biology doesn't matter. What matters is what you want or what you feel. How you feel. Okay, but here's the thing. Follow this logic out. If it's legally required that you allow somebody to be defined not by their biology, not by the way God made the world, not by objective truth, but by how they feel and what they want, okay, that's step one.
Yep.
Step two then is to say, and if you don't let them, you are hated. You're a hater.
Yep.
You're a bigot.
That's right.
And so you are oppressive. Yep. Okay. Now, step three. That means that no child born is defined by their biology.
Right.
No child born is, because if you define them by their biology, you are a hater.
Yeah.
Right.
You are an oppressor.
Right. Yeah.
You are tyranny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's coming.
And not just the child, but don't even have.
But this is the thing. Nobody is then defined by their biology, which means that you, as a parent, if you say, "Oh, it's a boy," you are a hater.
You just hate it,
and you are oppressive. And pretty soon there was a case in Ohio recently where a teenage child was taken from parents because the parents refused to acknowledge a transgender transition going on. That's a teenager, but you can't stop this logic.
That's right.
The logic is that we are defined not by the way, not by the world. I mean, not by the way God made the world, not by objective standards, not by biology, but by what people want or feel or think.
That's right.
Now, you are not your parent. You're not the parent of your child.
So I guess my question is, says who?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
By what stand? Yeah. By what authority?
Right.
Yeah.
The answer to that is
the new God gets to define it.
By what authority?
The new God gets to define it now.
But
How do you feel?
Here's the deal. This is a discipleship that's happened in our own public schools. Remember, John Dewey said, to paraphrase John Dewey, basically he was defining a person as what it is and what it can do.
That's
right?
it.
That's all it is. You detach all the biology from it. You're mechanical.
Just mechanical.
So if you can get a teacup to hammer a nail, then you can call that teacup a hammer. What it is, what it can do.
Right. And so, but Dan, you're exactly right. The problem, of course, is they don't really have a standard for any of this. They don't. They really don't have a standard for it. Yep. But this is what they're doing is making themselves the standard.
The standard of what
the ancient battle is between God and people like Adam and Eve in the garden being told you can be like God. It's between God and man trying to be God.
Yep. Secular humanism.
That's right.
That's right.
More Cross Politics when we come back with Dan Foreman. I'm glad you're here, man.
Me too.
Some infighting going on? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Classical Conversation supports homeschooling parents by cultivating the love of learning through a Christian worldview in fellowship with other families. We provide a classical, Christ-centered curriculum, local, like-minded communities across the United States and in several countries, and we train parents who are striving to be great classical educators in the home. For more information and to get connected, please visit our website at classicalconversations.com. Classical, Christian, get connected, get community.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm?
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Headset.
I think you just blew out my headset.
Welcome back to Cross Politic. You can send your hate mail to
at
Gabe Wrench.
GM Wrench Twitter account.
Don't yell in my ears.
Go to my Twitter account.
Memo at crosspolitic.com. Welcome back to Cross Politic. We're grateful to have Senator Dan Foreman with us in the studio.
Yes. I know.
Today, Dan is our local state senator here in Idaho. And Dan, again, thanks for being with us.
Oh, you bet.
Thanks for serving Idaho.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And so, man, talk to us. What is it like in Boise?
I'll choose my words.
Is that hard?
No.
Hey, we got some whiskey back there.
We aren't careful.
It's a royal pain in the neck.
Okay.
I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to serve because it gives the man or woman in office a chance to do something that's proper and correct and decent, and that helps people. But the system we have down there is a good system, but they're not fully utilizing it. And what I mean by that is the voice of the people sometimes, all too often, gets eclipsed. For example, legislation or potential legislation, potential laws come out of committee meetings where, in the case of the Senate, 9 people sit and listen to testimony about why this would be a good law or why it wouldn't be. And you listen to experts and then you vote. Should it go to the floor of the Senate and be debated and voted on and then sent to the House where the whole process goes again? And if it passes, it goes to the governor. Now, the bottleneck in that is, in my opinion, is the committee chairman can literally take your piece of legislation and say, I don't like it. So it goes in the desk drawer and it doesn't get heard. Now, it doesn't seem to matter how many citizens want a hearing. There were a number of times where there was grassroots support just to have a hearing. Let's hear the pros and cons of this bill. One of those was the CBD oil situation. We should have had a hearing on that. There was popular support for it. But because a handful of people in government didn't want a hearing, we didn't have a hearing.
This is a cannabis oil?
Yeah,
is that what we're talking about?
Right. The THC or whatever the chemicals are that cause the high and
that's removed.
That's gone.
But it's like a medicinal.
Yeah, and it would be by prescription, and it would come out of certified labs, and there was a procedure in the bill for trying to guarantee
for more government legislation on it.
Well, yeah, consumer safety and not adding to the drug crisis that's going on. But that never got a hearing. And it didn't get a hearing because I think the chairman in charge of that hearing was put upon by powers that be to not have a hearing. And kind of felt sorry for the gentleman. But, when you're in that type of position, you have to stand up and do what's right. There should have been a hearing on that.
And this is what happened with your abortion bill. Same kind of thing,
well,
right?
My
It didn't
abortion,
even make it to-
it didn't even get a print hearing, which is, I'll get into that. That's
Okay.
a whole separate state of affairs there. But we had another bill, which was the vaccine opt-out, where as a parent in Idaho, you can turn in a letter with your signature saying, I want my kids to opt out of the required vaccinations. It's in the law.
It's
Idaho
your
code.
kid.
Yeah, exactly. Bingo. That's my point
That's
of view.
my
It's
baby.
your kid.
And there have been a number of instances where schools didn't recognize that right under the law and required parents to use a Department of Health and Welfare departmental form, which had some text on it that parents objected to. And I don't blame them. I would have objected to it. I wouldn't have signed it myself.
Yeah.
So I was sponsoring a bill that simply would have clarified existing law, wouldn't have changed it, just would have clarified it to make it crystal clear you don't have to use a government form to opt out. we got a print hearing. It passed 5-4, and then we had a full hearing on the books, and it was canceled at the last minute, and we never did. So the bill went in the desk drawer, and
these are conservative. We're not talking about. This
is not California.
Right. These are conservatives we're talking about.
Right.
People who vote conservatively.
Right. And the real issue here isn't, is this a good bill or not? The issue is the people of the state of Idaho didn't have a chance, even though some of them had driven from as far away as Pocatello to come for a committee hearing because we were told we were going to have a committee hearing, canceled at the last minute, and all those people were just told, sorry, no hearing. My friends, that is wrong. That is not representative government, and that is a flaw in our system. We need to fix that.
It's one thing for it to be brought to the floor and voted down.
Yes,
but at least then it had a fair hearing and there was a fair vote.
Had its day in court.
Right, but you're saying we have a bottleneck. We're like that's not even happening. Like just meetings are getting canceled. Proposed legislation is just getting filed.
Right,
and nothing. It doesn't see the light of day.
That's right. There's too much control at the top, and that's not the way the system should work.
How many senators are there in the state of Idaho?
35.
Okay. And 9 of them serve on this bill committee, or are there multiple committees that you're talking about?
Well, there's multiple committees. I was talking health and welfare in the particular case of
so multiple committees on different topics, who then are in charge of allowing certain bills to see the light of day or not.
Exactly. That's how it works.
Yeah. And so this makes
pretty simple.
So but this means, though, then the chairs of those committees are really significant.
Well, they're very powerful, and they're too powerful.
Yeah.
You know, representative government is supposed to work like this. All these people want a hearing. They get a hearing.
Yeah.
Now, the bill may be voted down because maybe it's bad legislation.
Right, of course.
But when the judge tells you, you don't even get your day in court,
right?
Is that representation? No, you're being cut out of the picture. It shouldn't happen, and it is happening in Idaho. And we need to change the rules so that if a bill is presented and it's not on its face unconstitutional, it should get a hearing.
Yeah. Are you working on doing something like that?
Well, I will be next session.
When's the next session? Sorry.
It starts in January. Next January.
Gabe, would you like to say something?
Tell me, is it my turn?
Sorry.
Ding, ding, ding.
So Dan, last year you went down and proposed legislation to end abortion, and then you told us even in the studio that you were going to go back down this year and do something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems that I have with politicians is I don't trust you guys.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you.
We said that to lieutenant governors very clearly.
I don't think they like to see it.
No,
hi, we don't trust you.
We don't. We just don't. And but one of the ways that kind of helps me is that you guys go down there and do what you say. Did you do something like that this last year?
Yeah, I did. Last session, I made it perfectly clear to anybody who would listen that I was going to use my pro-life, anti-abortion effort as the centerpiece of my efforts down there. So it's number one on my list here, and it was number one on my list down there. And I took a little different tack this time.
Okay.
What I wrote up as a proposed bill was, let's modify Title 18 Idaho Code to do away with the defense or the affirmative defense for having what Idaho calls a legal abortion. Because in Idaho, abortion is murder.
Yeah.
According to existing law.
Listed in Idaho Code as murder.
But we have additional Title 18 code that says, however, if you follow our rules, you won't be prosecuted for that offense, in essence. Well, I wanted to do away with that part of Idaho Code. Now, I didn't propose a change to the law and have the senators vote on it, because that never would have seen the light of day.
Right.
What I proposed was an advisory vote. We put it on the ballot for this November. And I ran it past the Attorney General's office, and I was told, yes, you can do this. It's been done before.
Okay.
Not very often, but it was done at least once. I went through the Secretary of State's office to find out how to do it, and we had it all wired. And it would have given the people, for the first time in Idaho or maybe anywhere else, a chance to vote on this really important grassroots issue.
So you proposed an option for actually to put ending abortion in Idaho up to vote to everybody.
Yeah,
everybody
and it was an advisory vote.
So it wouldn't have changed the law.
It would not have changed the law.
It would have been the people recommending that you guys do this.
It would have given the people what I just talked about earlier, a voice.
Right.
Yeah, right.
The legislature could ignore that voice.
Right.
Wow.
Or vote in accordance with. But I couldn't even get a print hearing on it. in the State Affairs Committee.
And that's Jeff Sidaway's.
Now, by the way, we're talking about conservatives.
Oh, Jeff.
Right.
I know.
I have to talk to you
We're
again.
talking about conservative.
Right.
Right. I just want to make sure we talk about the right people.
Yeah, we're talking about conservative Republicans.
Republicans. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to that bill. But, people are going to say, well, what's going on down there? These are good people in the Senate, and they're conservative, and they don't like abortion. And I know Senator Sidaway, who I honestly believe
We've talked to him.
Yeah, I know, is a good man. And he had good things to say about you guys because I asked him about his interview here.
Yeah.
And he's an honest man. I think if you ask him a question, he'll give you an answer, and the answer might surprise you.
So what's the answer that he gives you on this particular one? Where, I understand, I don't agree with it, but I understand some of the pushback that we received that says if you pass this bill, it'll get overturned by the feds.
Right.
And so, I don't think we should be bowled over by that, but at least I understand that objection.
Sure.
Yeah.
In this instance,
we're not even that far yet.
What would the pushback be to
exactly.
say we're going to have a statewide advisory vote? What's the pushback?
Well, there was no pushback on the vote part of it per se. I think the pushback was the general topic, abortion. Right. Now, the pushback with abortion is, you're right, number one thing that would happen would be lawsuit. I say, good, bring it on. That's what we want.
Yes.
To force this issue all the way up the chain.
You guys,
to the Supreme
in whatever
Court.
state you're in, get yourself a Dan Foreman.
Get a Dan Foreman.
Get yourself a Dan Foreman who says that.
Yeah.
That's right.
The establishment in Boise doesn't want that, and they don't want the notoriety, and they don't want ripples on the political pond. And they constantly throw the Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood and all that in your face. And I say, yeah, I'm aware of that, but how are we ever going to change anything if we don't push from the bottom up?
Yeah. What about Dred Scott?
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about that.
That's just
this would be a horrible time to be a slave.
Right. Yeah. The Supreme Court has made mistakes before.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to point out that these are all good people there. I haven't met a single senator that I wouldn't buy a used car from, put it that way. They're decent people, but they have been cowed into thinking that they must put their morality in a bottle, like we were talking about earlier, that they are not allowed by law to practice what they truly believe, and what they have forgotten, because at one time I'm sure they all understood this, what they have forgotten is it is their birthright. It is their mandate to practice what they really believe.
Well, see, Dan, that's
that's
what you and I would disagree is I think that's a different definition of decent that I want to give.
Well,
if you've forgotten where your morality and where your standard of morality comes from, and you refuse to act on that, that's not being decent.
But the reason I say they're good people is because they really are. And here's the key point. Here's the operative point. If this evil that's loose in the world, and trust me, and I can talk more on this later, it's out there. Believe me. If it can reach out to good, decent, moral people and convince them to do nothing, to make excuses, to be quiet, what you really have is people who in every other way are good, decent, God-fearing people, because they are. But they've decided that they cannot and will not speak out. So that's a very
But that's cowardice,
point.
though. At that point, though.
Well,
and cowardice go to hell,
right? And I know what you're saying. I mean,
I get it. No, I get it.
We have, you have neighbors that you could ask them to watch your dog for the weekend and keep an eye on things and
shoot my cat,
so on. They might shoot your cat. I'd shoot your cat.
Thank you.
Got a cat?
No.
You better not have a cat. No. We are not a cat affirming show, right?
Bob, we already dealt that with Bob on NRB TV.
I'm just making sure. Sorry, we had to clear that up.
Cats.
Yeah, good.
I knew something about you was
but
right.
This is the deal. I'm with Chalk on this. I mean, the thing is, I know what you're talking about. Decent people. I know, you buy a used car from them. I got it. But I think one of the problems we have, though, is that we are not labeling that honestly,
accurately.
When you are cowed, and I get it. I don't think they're consciously thinking, and now I will compromise.
No.
Now I will. I don't think that. So I get what you're trying to protect, and I'm with you on that. That's part of being gracious and kind to people.
And you got to see them tomorrow.
But I also know that being gracious and kind also means telling the truth.
Right.
And I think we need to tell them
and living out the truth.
Right. When you obey the state, when the state says you may not bring your morality in here, and they sheepishly say, "Oh, okay," they are being immoral.
You know what?
It's not that they're being moral;
Yeah.
they're being immoral. They're being wicked. They're being evil.
Yeah.
When you don't walk into the state house and say Jesus is Lord of this state house, and we're going to do exactly what Jesus tells us to do.
You get that organ.
If you don't say that, though, you don't fear God.
No, you're absolutely right.
They might fear God in the sense of, they don't cheat on their taxes and they're faithful to their wife. But you can't walk into a state house where it matters the most, where that's your calling before God. You can't go in there and then say Jesus is not Lord here because the state said so. In that moment, the state is Lord at that moment.
No, you're absolutely
the state
right.
is Lord, and
Dan's a nice guy,
and they don't fear God.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think we've highlighted exactly what's going on. I totally agree with what you're saying. It is immoral to do nothing, and the only thing necessary for evil to succeed.
For good
right
guys
now,
to do
today,
nothing.
it's succeeding. Let me tell you,
because
people
who know better aren't saying.
This is what I know about Dan. So he's a nice guy.
He's a decent.
I asked him earlier before we started the show. I said, "What would it take for somebody to be evil for you, Dan?"
Yeah, right.
Because he really does think about people as kind and nice and decent. But one of the things that I saw that happened at the Lieutenant Governor's show was when you said, "Hey, when Dan Foreman was putting forth this bill, how come no one here said anything?"
No one backed Dan up.
No one backed Dan up and said, "Shame on you guys for not pushing this."
We had national liberal media come into Idaho to interview you.
And Dan would still say after that, they're nice guys.
They're nice.
So I understand that about him. So I get that. But Dan, this is where me and you is like, if we're gonna come to a place where we really disagree outside the Catholicism, it's gonna be this right here. You know what I mean?
But not to put too fine a point on it, but maybe this is a place where his Catholicism is kind of messing with him a little bit. We should.
well, maybe. Except here was my approach, because actually I honestly do agree with what you're saying. You're correct. Your logic is not flawed in any way. To not try to do right is to do evil. And in their own way, in their own passive way, they're being evil when they don't use the powers that have been granted to them. And believe me, their powers to make law are considerable.
Yes.
But here was my approach to that. In essence, and I hate to use this terminology, but I rubbed their noses in it. By example, because I was not quiet. I did not.
You didn't have to really rub their nose. You just had to stand up for truth.
You just kept standing there.
I decided I was going to be very vocal about standing up for what was right, and it put a bunch of ripples on their political pond, and I know they didn't like it, but you know what? Too bad, guys. Grow a backbone, stand up, start practicing the faith that you say you embrace instead of running from it, and let's right some of these wrongs. And what it takes is a rabble-rouser. It takes somebody who basically was described as being obnoxious and a pain in their backside. Good. Right. Because that's the only way to get them moving.
But this is what obnoxious and pain in the backside looks is fighting for.
But this brings us back to the point we were making before, though, because this secularism, statism is a religion. It is a morality. It's immoral, but it's their own morality. And so if you do not follow it lockstep, you do not fear it, you will be considered a heretic.
Yeah,
you're obnoxious, you're hateful, you're a bigot. That's the only option.
By your own people. That's the thing. It's not like it's the other side. You already got fights dealing on the other side, but you got to fight your side and they side.
Well, in this type of arena, there really are no sides. I voted with the Democrats quite a few times.
Wow.
And I had some wonderful talks with the Democrats who saw my point of view on a number of issues. This isn't a political issue. This is a moral issue.
And I believe that because I think we're in the kind of mess we're in where you can't go in and just vote down some kind of party line.
Absolutely
We are so insane. We are so messed up that we've got to go in there and just say, what does the Bible say? All right, that's what we're going to do.
But here's the thing. I like Doug's quote on this. He said, "There's some pastor that says, how come wherever I go, people give me tea? People tell me, hey, sit down and have tea. But where Paul went there, he caused riots.
Yeah,
right. And that's we need more politicians being willing to do that kind of.
That's where we're at.
They can't like you.
No.
You probably have a hit out on you, right? Do we have somebody at the door? More cross politics when we come back. I want to make sure we have security outside because there's no way that they like this guy.
That means he's doing something right. He's doing something right.
Pray for Dan and find you one in your state. More cross politics coming up next. Woo!
This is Cy Timbergen with Answer Anyone Apologetics. Somebody comes up to you and says, I don't believe in God. And what do? We give them evidence. Look at the complexity of the eye. Look at this paper fragment. Look at these rock layers. And you've studied your rock layers. You wipe the floor with them. What's he going to do? He's going to go home and Google rock layers. You want him to repent and put his trust in Jesus Christ, and he's Googling rock layers. Congratulations. The next day you run into a PhD in geology and he wipes the floor with you. You see, when you do apologetics wrong, you have to be an expert in geology, biology, astrophysics, nuclear chemistry, you name it. You have to be brilliant. The problem is, there's always someone smarter than you. In John 10:27, Jesus did not say, "My sheep hear your really good argument." He said, "My sheep hear my voice." In Luke 21:15, Jesus said, "I will give you a mouth and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict." The power of God for salvation is not in your brilliant arguments. As Romans 1:16 tells us, it's in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Apologetics is easy. Read your Bible and do what it says. For more apologetic answers, visit AnswerAnyone.com.
Come on, Gabe. What are you looking for? What are you on Facebook?
You're not doing it.
The
I'm working.
March Madness is over.
I'm working.
Hey, welcome back to Cross Politic. If you haven't liked and shared this show yet,
who?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Invite all your friends.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Ain't nobody understand the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Stop.
What
Please.
movie? What movie?
Please.
Was that good?
That was not good.
The
Please.
fact, I still translated to Rush Hour, so I knew what he was talking about.
There you go.
It's
David,
still
you were
bad.
telling me about there's this thing where you can go on there and you can like invite your friends.
Yeah, so if you on your cell phone, if you are on your cell phone viewing this and you hit the share button, you can actually scroll up on your phone and everybody in your friends list is there. And so you can invite them. It's horrible to do it the last segment. We probably should talk about this first segment. But still,
Hey, we got one segment left.
We got a couple minutes left.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
Go down that friends list and invite as many people as you can.
So with us in the studio today is Senator Dan Foreman. He has been talking to us about Idaho politics today, and he's been serving in the Idaho Senate. Fighting. He's been pointing out some of the legislative bottleneck problems we have where the people are not being heard. He introduced legislation in the last session in order to try to get an
advisory vote.
An advisory vote where the people of Idaho could tell their government in Boise that they are opposed to abortion. That was not even allowed to see the light of day. Now we have a primary coming up next month, May 15th, and we have Marshall Comstock running against Dan Foreman.
Now, Marshall, he's a Democrat, right?
No, he's
this is a primary.
So he's on your team running against
Well,
you.
you know.
Yeah.
It's a primary.
Oh.
So
you really been making some noise over there.
Well, you know why? You know why Marshall's run against him?
Why?
It's because Dan voted against increasing University of Idaho's budget.
Right, twice.
Why'd you do that?
Well, I did that because, number one, they're Fat City when it comes to cash.
Ooh.
They really are.
No more money for you.
They've got enough money currently to do what they need to do.
Their current budget's like $200 million or something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's significant.
And, you know, I went through their budget.
So you're saying they could sponsor Cross Politic if they wanted to?
Oh, they could. I don't think they will. I mean, you know, separation of church and state.
Yeah. My alma mater.
You know, two reasons I voted no, and I agreed with Senator Vick from up north.
Call them all
on
out.
this.
Yeah.
He and I both agreed that, and well, I don't want to speak for him, so I'll just say here's the way I looked at it. Their request was excessive. They didn't need as much money as they were asking for, and they need to do what everybody else does in the state, is tighten their belt and get by sufficiently with the funds they have, and they can do that. Secondly, they're liberal, and
don't give money to liberals.
Well, I don't care if people are liberal, but as an organization that takes state funding, they shouldn't be liberal. They shouldn't be conservative. They should be open to all ideas.
Not the neutral.
Right.
Here's one of the things
and they're not neutral.
Right, but I think that's great.
Here's one of the things that frustrate me.
Oh man, he said it
I
again.
did it again.
Yeah.
About
you can use the angry face now if you want to.
No, about conservatives is we keep giving more and more money to our public education system, and all the public education system's doing is discipling liberals to grow up and vote against conservatives.
Right.
Yeah,
that is exactly.
It's
propaganda.
insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
Propaganda.
Let's pay them to train our kids
to get rid of us,
to be idiots.
To vote against us.
To not think in a straight line.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So Marshall Comstock is running against you, though, in part because of the way you voted about this.
Well,
about
you know,
education.
I don't ever remember meeting the gentleman, and no one has come to me and told me why he's running.
Okay.
But, you know.
That's what I was told in the Republican community here in town by people who are connected to Latah County.
Right.
Do we know how Marshall Comstock is on abortion?
Don't know how he's on abortion. I assume he's pro-life. He doesn't really have much on his.
But everybody
on his
in the
record.
circle's pro-life.
Oh yeah, like everybody.
You know what I mean? That's what's so crazy about this. It's like
it's easy to say that in
it's
Idaho,
easy to,
right?
Well,
exactly.
we have Republicans running currently from this district that are pro-choice.
Okay.
You know, so I've been told.
But a majority of like the Idaho Senate would consider themselves pro-life.
Yeah.
You know,
don't you think?
You know, I don't know.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
It depends on how they'd say, well, what's your definition of pro-life?
Oh,
do I like kids?
Wow.
Whatever. Now, to me, it means are you against abortion?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I mean, come on.
I think the majority probably would say they're against it, but they won't stand up.
I'm not
I want
saying
names and addresses.
I'm not saying that they actually stand up. Obviously they would
probably would say that.
So we actually invited Marshall Comstock to come on the show this week today, and he said he's
hunting.
Yeah, he was walking his dog like with Jordan Peterson. He's with Jordan Peterson.
They're hanging out,
walking his dog.
Well, I can tell you why.
There's this survey. There's a survey going around to survey our candidates and everything, and the survey had to do with it came from I think the homeschooler. What's the organization? Idaho Coalition of Home Educators.
Okay.
And there was just 4 questions asked to Marshall Comstock, and he said, "Do you support or oppose requiring families who home educate to register their children with either the state or their local public school district?" Marshall Comstock put, "I support."
Yeah.
So homeschoolers should register with their local school district or the state.
Don't vote for Marshall.
Secondly, do you support or oppose requiring all children taught at home to take standardized achievement tests each year? Yes. What other requirements, if any, would you favor as a condition of a parent's right to teach his or her children at home? So what other requirements?
Yeah.
And he said, here's his answer. Be assured that the basic subjects of English, math, science, and history are part of the curriculum.
So he's conditioning the
He's
right.
conditioning.
Then
Yep.
it's not a right.
It's not a right. Lastly,
it's a grant from the.
That's
from the
right.
state.
That's right.
Yeah.
My answers
good.
to all 4 of those are on my Facebook page.
Okay.
I wasn't able to participate in
that
I
survey.
wonder why.
But my answers are the exact opposite of that gentleman's answers.
So listen to this. Last question. Other comments that you wish to make on the subject of home education. So these are other comments.
Yeah.
Okay. And Marshall says, I feel it's also important that homeschool children have the ability to socialize outside of the home with activities such as church, organized sports, dances, camps, etc. Nothing controversial there, but there's an assumption.
Yeah.
It's none of his business.
Don't worry about my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
My church, my friends, we got this. I don't need the government to worry about my kids.
Right.
We good.
And the thing is, he wants our homeschool children to report to either the state or the local public school district who have a history of doing nothing with their standardized tests. Who have a history of not hitting any standardized work. They're flat out. And we got a commercial coming.
Dan is right, though. The massive problem with this is that there is an assumption here that the state grants
you rights to do
rather than it being something that you inherently have from
because
God.
Of God.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, that's a completely
You better
different.
preach that.
You know, this is back to that ADF presentation that we saw. Ooh, man.
Got to get him on the show.
Oh, Obergefell. I mean, this is another thing.
Yes.
The problem. I mean, Christians, you need to get worked up about Obergefell.
You do. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we've been worked up about Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
Praise God. We need to get more worked up about it.
Yep.
But we need marches on D.C. on the Obergefell decision.
2015. This happened 3 years ago.
Because the two are not really separated either.
You don't understand it because what it's saying is that Obergefell says that the state grants the recognition of the married state.
Yeah. That's right.
That marriage is not an institution of God. It's not a natural estate. It's
We
not
decide what it is.
The state grants legitimacy to unions and therefore must grant legitimacy to homosexual unions.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. This is the Supreme Court of the United States nuking family.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
It's
That's
dropping
right.
a bomb
That's
on it,
And they
it's
androgenized it.
and it's saying your marriage exists because we, the state,
Yeah.
the God state, grants you legitimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is at war with God.
Well,
this is at war with His Word.
You're absolutely right. And I stand against all of that, and I've been very vocal about that.
Vote for Dan.
And that is why
Vote for Dan.
That is why I am not very well supported locally, because this local area here, even though there's some great people in Latah County, and they're conservative, and they'll vote for a conservative.
There's Dan going again. They're all decent. They're all decent.
Yeah, I told you. I told you.
But the immediate area is a cesspool of liberalism.
Yeah.
And the things that they advocate and support are against the Bible. They're against morality. I don't stand for those things. And that is why I'm being challenged in this primary. Nothing against my opponent. I've never met the gentleman.
No, he wants to.
But he's just wrong.
He wants to hold Nazi tactics,
right,
and have our kids report to the state.
If you are a Bible believing Christian, you should just see question number 1,
and that's enough.
Register our kids with the state if we want to for how we educate them.
Why don't you just,
and you say no thanks.
Well, just hand in your guns next.
Put the mark of the beast on your children.
Here's something about the war that's going on, and the hatred, the evil I experienced in the State House, not at the hands of the government, but at the hands of people calling in and writing in with respect to my pro-life agenda.
Stance, yeah.
It absolutely cemented in my mind the fact that I already embraced anyway, was that there was a war between good and evil going on, not just in America and in Idaho, but around the world.
Yeah, sure.
And the thing that people need to realize is, and this is really key, it's a quiet war. They want it to be quiet because they're co-opting people.
That's right.
They're convincing people to keep silent and just let the war go on without firing a shot. And when you stand up and kick the devil right in his behind, let me tell you, they react because they honestly believe this is their state.
Give him the organ.
I know,
Give him a little organ.
Well,
He's preaching
their country and their world.
That's right. Well, and here's the thing.
And how dare you stand up against
That's
that?
right. And seduction is the most one of the best weapons in war. Is seduction, seducing. That goes from camouflage.
Well, and this is the thing is so part of back of this. You're absolutely right. It's a spiritual war. But the fact of the matter is that bottom of this is a question about what you think the nature of man fundamentally is.
That's right.
We were created good. We were created in God's image. But in the fall, in Adam, we are enemies of God.
Yeah.
We are at war with God. Right. And so you don't have to do anything, and that war wages on.
Yeah.
The nations rage. The nations rage. And what are they plotting? They're plotting vain things. It's not going to actually happen, but they're plotting against God and against his Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't, there's I think sort of a humanistic assumption that thinks that people are just basically good. And if you think that people are basically good, fundamentally good, and they tend to do good, then you can actually sit back and think,
eventually good will
kind of creep out.
Yeah.
But if you understand the fall, if you understand the nature of man is sinful, and our hearts are naturally at war with God, then if you sit back, then what happens? War with God.
Yeah. Well, they can sit back for a while, but here's what's taking place. Every single living human being on this planet is going to come to the fork in the road, and they're going to know they're at the fork in the road, and they're going to have to choose good or choose evil, and it will be an informed decision. They won't be able to sit back any longer. Yeah. The battle lines are being drawn, and you can, if you pay attention, you can see signs of this everywhere.
Right.
People who, prior to this date in time and in history, have been quiet are now standing up and going, enough of this.
Yeah. Right.
Because they've come to their own personal fork in the road. There's going to be two armies, two camps. Good and evil, and you'll know which one you're in because you will put yourself there.
Well, and I just want to say, too, being silent is taking a side.
It is.
Absolutely,
and being silent is taking the wrong side.
Right. Yeah. You're voting to let them have the voice.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, also, too, I just want to say, Marshall, you are welcome to come on the show.
Yeah.
We would love to have you on the show. We'd love to talk to you.
Maybe Marshall. Maybe you haven't thought through these things.
Maybe that's right.
We would love to talk to you and love to try to walk you through these things, and you can help us try to understand your point of view.
Yeah.
And as long as you're willing to let Chocolate Knox tell you what's right. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good with that.
I mean, and we're voters, right?
Yeah.
We reach a lot of people here in Idaho. That's a large part of our audience, and in this district. So it'd be great for you to come on here and talk to us and
clarify
clear some of these things up.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, but right now, the temperature that you're gauging from your brothers inside of the Senate, is it causing this type of fallout? Is it saying, okay, we got to get them out of here?
Or are you winning anybody over?
That's exactly
right.
I
think I've won quite a few senators over, but they're still reluctant to stand up and be vocal about it.
We're noticing some of that.
But if you pay attention and watch what they say and what they do, and I've talked to them privately, and they're pretty disgusted with the fact that they don't really feel like they have a voice and they don't understand what's going on all the time. And they should understand. They make the law, for Pete's sakes.
Wow.
But they're starting to stand up. What they needed was somebody to take the first bullet, so to speak.
Yeah. That's what leaders do.
And I went down there knowing full well I'm expendable. I'm not a politician. I don't want to have a career down there. I'm financially set. I had everything to gain and nothing to lose except putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and standing up to the animosity.
Right.
But once one person does that, others will follow. So I think if we can continue that little snowball that I pushed over the edge of the hill, it's rolling down. If we can keep it going, it'll get bigger.
It's like the emperor has no clothes. You know, like you remember the story of the emperor's new clothes.
Yeah.
The seamstress, the dresser, says I've got a new set of clothes. It's all hip. It's all trendy.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Total hipster.
All the kingdoms are wearing it. They're going.
Yeah.
It's the new style. And he comes in, he says, "Here it is," and the king says, "I can't see it."
Yeah, all this nonsense we see going on, and we've talked about
exactly
a number of things. It's just I had somebody walk up to me the other day, and he knew I was pro-life, and the topic came up, and I didn't even really say anything to the gentleman. He looked at me and he said, killing our own kids and calling it abortion and calling it a Supreme Court whatever, he says, it's just stupid.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
This is all nonsense that's going on around the world because that war I referenced earlier is heating up, and what they're trying to convince people of is they have to abandon their morality, accept the state as their new God, as their new religion, and put their morality in a bottle and use it only when it's the right occasion to pull it out and dust it off and apply it. Yeah.
And that's why Christians
when it suits their agenda.
Christians need to stand up and say, the emperor is naked.
That's right.
This is the time for people.
He's as naked as a jaybird.
You're right.
He's in his birthday suit, and it takes a kind of childish, like sort of, just don't worry about what it looks like.
Be Ezekiel.
He's naked.
Yeah.
He's naked.
Yeah.
This
if
doesn't
you
stand
know
up.
you're right and it's on a moral issue, then stand up. I don't care what they say.
That's a boy. That's a boy.
Yeah, it's a boy.
That's a girl.
You're a girl.
Yeah. That's a girl.
Right.
That's
No
a boy.
pink hair is not cute.
That kind of stuff is pure nonsense, and it's leading America to its own destruction.
Well, and we've said this on the show before, courage begets courage.
That's right.
And
That's
more
right.
and more politicians like you, Dan, need to be going down there and creating a stink. And
Absolutely.
letting the Lord kind of sort the fallout, trusting him.
Right.
But telling the truth about it.
But telling the truth, and courage begets courage. One of the reasons why we had Cross Politic turned it into an LLC, so we had choices to make it a 501c3 nonprofit or to make it an LLC, was because we could have guys on the show like Dan who are currently in the middle of running for office and throw you support. If we were a nonprofit, we wouldn't be able to have on the show right now. If we were a nonprofit, we wouldn't be able to say, vote for Dan.
Vote for Dan.
But this is an important mission of what we're trying to do, is have our theology come all the way out of our fingertips and get down to Boise.
And I just want to say...
And that's why you need to be a club member.
Well, that's exactly what I was... No, seriously, I understand that because what we're doing, you're partnering with us to be able to say that. So hopefully other godly men in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city start rising up too.
Right.
So you're joining us with the same
that guy
thing.
He's not wearing any
He's
clothes.
not wearing clothes.
He's naked.
Real quick, Dan, how can people here in Idaho, in our district, how can they help you?
What district is this?
Yeah.
5.
District 5.
Latah and Benawa County.
How can we help you?
How can we help you?
Talk to people and tell them what the real issues are. They're not political, they're moral. We need somebody to go down there, and if it's not me, it needs to be somebody else to go down and stand up for what is just plain right and proper and decent. And so many politicians have been cowed into just looking the other way.
Yeah.
We can't afford that. So talk to as many people as you can. It's not about me.
Right.
It isn't. It's about morality and doing the right thing and saving our country from where it's headed.
Right.
All right, guys.
So find you a Dan Foreman.
Yep.
Don't try and poach ours. And until next week.
Support him.
Yeah, that's right.
Join the membership.
Join the membership.
Go to crosspolitic.com. Share this episode.
Yep.
Tag all your friends.
And until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
He's naked. He's naked.
Tell him.
He's naked.
Put some clothes on, man.
Put some clothes on.
You're naked.
Your mama.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Nobody understands the words coming out of your mouth.